I'm sure you guys have heard people saying the Western Conference is going to be ridiculous next year, or the Western Conference is going to be back on top next year. And while people do mention the New Orleans Pelicans, at the same time, they mention it in passing, as if the Pelicans are just going to be lurking in the background. But I think this Pelicans team has the ability to shock the world. First off, let's start here. How many teams have three guys that can get you 40, a defensive stopper, and a center that can get you 20 and 20? How many teams have that? I'm sure teams have players that are capable of doing that, but as far as none of us will be surprised if CJ, BI, or Zion got 40. None of us will be surprised if Herb Jones locked down a star player. None of us will be surprised if JV got 20 and 20 in an important game. And I think just starting that as the baseline to let you know how dangerous this team is going to be next year. And I can give you guys numbers and all that and put that into perspective. But really, this team has two special talents. A lot of people are reluctant to put Brandon Ingram in that category of being one of those ones, one of those special ones, but I think he is. Now, the more obvious one is Zion Williamson. Now, Zion, we know what he does 27 points on 60% from the field. Absolutely ridiculous. But bringing in Zion to a team that was pretty successful in the second half of the season without him, that's not going to be an easy transition for a lot of guys, including Brandon Ingram. It's going to be tough for those guys to mesh at first. I believe that. But when you have two guys that are above 6'6", that can handle and pass and score at will, I think those guys will figure it out. And when you hear people talk about this team, they say they need a point guard in a way that people used to say about the Clippers, or in the way that people still say about the Celtics, even though they just went to the finals. And I'm not saying those people are wrong. But in the Pelican situation, they have two guys that can handle the ball and set up their teammates and go get 30. I don't think they need a point guard. I think Brandon Ingram is a better passer than Jason Tatum. I think he's a better passer than Paul George. I think Zion Williamson is a better passer than Jaylen Brown. I think Zion Williamson is a better passer than Kawhi Leonard. These two guys are special in what they do. And I think building a team around them of guys that can shoot, get buckets, and play defense is absolutely good enough. You don't need a Ricky Rubio on this squad. You don't need that. If you guys watched last season, Brandon Ingram as a playmaker is one of the best in the league. This team does not need a point guard. But like I said, these two guys are going to have to figure out how to play together. Because the one season they actually played together under Stan Van Gundy, I remember saying it almost after every game when I would make a video, is Stan Van Gundy would not let those guys play together. He would always try to stagger them. He would always have them away from the action together. Why not put your best two players in actions? Why not have BI screen for Zion and dare them to switch that? But we all know it's going to have to be Brandon Ingram making the compromise on this team. That's just the way it's going to be. So Brandon Ingram, you no longer can't shoot threes for months at a time because Zion's going to need that spacing. You're going to have to cut hard off the ball all the time because Zion's going to need that spacing. That's just what it is. And what should encourage Pelicans fans about that is Brandon Ingram was pretty bad for the last half of the season last year as far as shooting the three. But when the playoffs came around and he knew what his team needed from him, he embraced shooting the three. If you go watch game one of that series, the Phoenix Suns are not respecting him at all from three. In game two, he lit them up from three in that fourth quarter. I think we've all seen enough from him to believe he's a very good three-point shooter, and just sometimes he falls into his tendencies to not take them. And I think that's going to be on the coaching staff to keep encouraging him to take those threes because it's going to open up things a lot for Zion Williamson. And I think it works both ways because Zion's going to be creating opportunities where Brandon Ingram's man is going to help off of him. And if Brandon Ingram's going to keep getting wide open corner threes, that's going to be a lot of extra points for BI, a lot of easy points, a lot of efficient points. So maybe he takes 2 or 3 less shots a game or whatever, but he takes 2 or 3 more threes a game as opposed to those mid-range jumpers. But we all know those mid-range jumpers are very important, going to be very important when we get to playoff time. And I'm speaking about Zion as if Zion's going to come back the exact same player. We don't know that. Zion may come back a worse player, God forbid. He may come back, not recovered well from the injury, whatever. That's a possibility. But what if Zion comes back and he's better? What if he comes back and he's actually shooting the ball? What if he comes back with a floater? We don't really know what that's gonna look like yet. So again, these two together off the rip, the passing, the scoring, the shooting from Bi. Bi's a master in the post. He's probably not gonna get as many post touches with Zion on the court. So in staggered minutes, Bi is probably gonna be in the post a lot. He could pass out of the post. I could already see Bi like on the right baseline. Zion comes to screen, slips the screen, lob. I could already see that. I feel like these two guys are gonna embrace working together. They're gonna embrace figuring it out because they're both very interesting players. They're both not just plug and play players. But I'm only talking about those two guys right now. What if Herb Jones takes a step? What if Trey Murphy takes a step? This team still has Larry Nance on the roster. This team is ridiculously deep. And I think Herb Jones in particular, and Trey Murphy, honestly, but Herb Jones, if he comes back shooting 37% from three with elite defense, with playmaking abilities, I feel like, man, this team, the sky is really the limit for this team. Trey Murphy comes back a 3-and-D, 6'10" player. How many of those are there in the league that can give you 40% from three while playing solid defense at 6'10"? Those players don't really exist. And if they do, they're getting paid a ton of money. And again, I'm only talking about the core pieces on this team. I think Najee Marshall's a good player to have deep on the bench. I'm not sure what's up with Devontae Graham, but I think Devontae Graham was brought in to fit with Zion. And I still think he absolutely fits with Zion. Running DHOs with Zion, pick and rolls with Zion. I think Devontae Graham still has a role on this team if he's here. JV, I haven't even talked about JV. What if he really embraces the three ball even more next year because he knows he has to play with Zion? Zion's going to put a lot of people in uncomfortable positions, but that's a good thing. That forces you to grow. Again, Ingram probably doesn't want to shoot 7 threes a game, but he's probably going to be put in position where he has to. And ultimately, I think that is great for his development, and the same thing with JV. Now, Brandon Ingram, I keep talking about Brandon Ingram because he is, I don't want to say the X factor because we know he's going to be great, but he can still reach another level. And I'm going to keep harping on that because I truly believe that. And the way he can really unlock this duo with Zion Williamson is the way I talked about Devontae Graham, right? He's a great pair with Zion because you have to come up so high on him. All of a sudden, Zion's at the rim easily with a slip. Now, I'm not saying Brandon Ingram has to develop that type of range, but if Brandon Ingram finally develops the pull-up three off the pick and roll, him and Zion are going to be the most unstoppable duo in the NBA. How do you stop that? If Brandon Ingram's just going to hit a pull-up three in your face and you can't really come up too far because Zion's going to get behind the defense and has an easy dunk, or if you trap Zion at the free throw line, he's going to find Herb Jones in the corner or Trey Murphy in the other corner. How do you stop that? You can't stop that. So if Brandon Ingram were to develop that part of his game, this team goes to a completely different level. And I think it's not unreasonable to ask that from Brandon Ingram, to expect that. I think he's already a great catch and shoot 3-point shooter. He just, we've talked about this. But if he develops that pull up from the 3-point line, this team has potential to be the best offense in the league. And if he doesn't develop that, it's okay because you have CJ McCollum, who's already great at that. So if Zion, CJ run a pick and roll, the defense comes up, they trap CJ, they get the ball out of his hands, they give it to Zion, Zion's rolling to the rim, the help comes over, all of a sudden Brandon Ingram wide open in the corner from three, which we know he's great at. This offense is going to be lights out either way. I would just like the ball in Brandon Ingram's hands more than CJ McCollum because I think Brandon Ingram's the better passer. But either way, this offense is going to be ridiculous. But defensively is clearly the struggle with this team. Last time we seen Zion, he was probably one of the worst defenders in the NBA. And I'm not even speaking in hyperbole in that. Brandon Ingram has his moments where he looks amazing on defense. He has moments where he looks like he's not trying. And it seems like I'm putting everything on Brandon Ingram's plate, but he's the leader of the squad. He's the veteran on the squad now. Obviously, CJ is the vet, but I think the young guys look to Brandon Ingram to lead, and I expect those two things from Ingram this season: 3-point shooting and elite defense or elite defensive effort. I think he got a little bit of taste of winning, and I think he's going to be all in on the defensive end. I think Brandon Ingram's 3-point shooting and defense will determine how far this team can go. If Brandon Ingram's going to shoot 7 threes a game and shoot 38%, all of a sudden this offense is amazing. If Brandon Ingram is going to be one of the best help side defenders in the league, all of a sudden this defense becomes formidable. So I know it sounds like I'm putting a lot on Brandon Ingram. That's because I expect that from him. So when you guys see me make a video and it seems like I'm being critical of Brandon Ingram, it's probably because I have higher standards for him than you guys do. I think this guy could legitimately be a top 10 player in the NBA. And it's getting a little late to talk about potential, but he's still only 24 years old. And I think we're about to see him wake up on the defensive side of the ball. I hope. But I think this team offensively is going to be unstoppable. And I think this team is going to be a formidable foe to anybody in the Western Conference. Our team's going to stop Zion, stop BI, stop CJ, stop JV, and not give up a ton of threes to Trey Murphy. Our team's going to do that. I think this team could shock the world. I think this team could be a legitimate title contender next year. I really, really believe that.